Welcome, dear readers, to Cover My Ass, where baffling books are reviewed but not read by yours trulies. My name is Kaki.
And I'm Kay, and remember, we only judge a book by its cover.
And we find ourselves... Kay, I've been so looking forward to saying this again. Oh. We find ourselves once more amid the towering stacks of your library.
It seems that we have found our way back, haven't we?
We're finally doing it again. We're on a quest to discover the hallowed breeding grounds of the velociraptors.
Yes.
And my dear friend, Guinevere, whom I've been missing for many weeks now.
Yeah, I think we're in the MC section now.
MC.
MCG.
Now, is that by the...
MCG.
MCG. Oh, like McG, the famous filmmaker.
MacGuffin, I think we're...
No. That's not... yes. Although traditionally that's spelled M-A-C.
Oh, MacGuffin. Oh,
yeah, I don't know where...
I suppose it's the original Scottish one. But yeah, so we're on the quest. We are cycling on the...
I mean, that's
Darwin
the...
3. No, that wasn't the name.
No, the Threegle.
Threegle, thank you. That's the one,
from
yes.
the Beagle...
but only one
famously...
part of the Threegle. Because I think we lost the other two parts somewhere down the line.
No, I told you about this. Or the raccoons who were masquerading as you. It's a hard to tell apart at this point. It's confusing times.
Just to recoup a little bit of the unnecessary lore, I've gotten word from one of our readers at home that there was a little bit of confusion whether at one point we were actually both three raccoons. But
Only at one point?
Well, no, I mean, there was a few episodes in which Kaki was three raccoons, and then there was a few episodes wherein he was talking to three raccoons posing as me.
I think that's the correct way.
Yeah,
I was never three raccoons.
No, that's right,
but
yes. There's always at least one of your hosts present in one of these podcasts.
Hey, that's a cover my ass guarantee. You can take that home to the bank. There's always at least one of us on the ball.
There you go.
That must have been so confusing, though. But how wonderful that some of our readers at home are paying attention to something that... I mean, I was speaking to three raccoons for about 3 weeks there, and I kind of didn't notice.
I mean, I do have the dark circles around my eyes most of the time,
so
do
I.
It is a bit of a
and
easy
we
mistake
both
to
works
make.
on the waistline, so underneath a trench coat,
and we do both wear hats from time to time, so that's not particularly unusual either.
I mean, we talk a bunch of nonsense. So
well, yes, but that's given. Otherwise, you don't get into podcasting.
That's right. Wow. Wow. I mean, that's certainly how we arrived there. Not to cast aspersions on any of our podcasting brethren who I'm sure have much more sensible things to say. Not to break the spell, but I wonder what it's like for a podcast where people review books that they've
actually read.
Yeah.
Well, we'll give it a go at some point.
It seems like a lot of work, and it seems like we probably wouldn't be able to maintain a weekly schedule.
Well, definitely not that.
Well,
I mean, there's times when I can easily eat a book in a week, but there's not I don't do it consistently.
So since I've been doing so much riding around and discovering the library, I can actually pop in the headphones of my old iPhone 5S, I think I said.
Probably. Yeah. That sounds about right.
Yeah, and listen to some audiobooks.
That's a good thing that I got the Wi-Fi sorted out here in the library.
Yes, thank you for that. Excellent coverage, by the way, because I've been going for miles and miles. I don't know whether it's in circles or spirals or whatever, because I'm
also glad that you can manage to charge your phone off the dynamo when you're on the Threegle.
Hey, it's good for the glutes.
Rock hard.
Yeah, thank you. Give me a walnut to crack one of these days.
I'm not big on walnuts, but
Well, okay.
They're all right, but that's the problem with walnuts. If you add them to anything, everything tastes like walnut. It's like the olives of the nut world.
What are you talking about? Are walnuts nuts?
Yes.
Even?
Yes, they are.
Are
hazelnuts.
You sure?
Yes.
They're not legumes?
I'm pretty sure they have a hard shell. They grow on trees.
Yeah.
Walnuts are actually nuts.
Okay, well, what about peanuts?
Peanuts are really nice. You got these plants, and they grow out, and you get this flower, and then after it's been pollinated, it kind of droops down, and then it
That's
burrows.
That's how mine goes when I pollinate, yeah. Sorry, continue.
It burrows into the ground, and then it keeps growing there, and it grows as a peanut underground.
Underground? I never knew that.
That's why they're called ground nuts.
I didn't know that either. I know that as peanuts. So they start off with peas in their pod,
exactly.
Right?
But then the plant droops down, and
that's when you think of the peanut. They're in a little pod.
But I think the pod only develops once it's burrowed in. Once the plant's burrowed itself underground, then it develops. I assume it's some sort of defense mechanism against getting eaten.
Well, what is the? Oh God! Everybody who clicked on this because they thought, "Oh, what a fun book! I can't wait to hear them review it." Must be so disappointed. But whatever.
Talking about peanuts,
folks. Just hang on. We're talking about peanuts here. What is the biological strategy of the legume? Because like the strategy of the fruit is to fall and rot and thereby provide nutrients to fruits. But like the strategy of the berry
is to be eaten and be pooped out by a bird,
and then that becomes the or whatever, and then the poop is the fertilizer. So what about legumes? I mean, do they have seeds?
Beans are legumes, so they
you can plant a bean and get a bean plant.
Everything it needs to like grow roots and get its leaves out of the ground is in that little bean pod. So neither of us is going to get a Segway award for today's book, but
let me try this.
Okay,
actually, let me. But none of these problems exist anymore in the book that we're talking about this week.
Oh, very good.
Project Pope by Clifford D. Simak.
Indeed.
And if you look down at your podcasting device, you should be seeing the cover of this week's book.
The extinct planet Earth is an intergalactic LARPer's paradise. All the cool continents are already claimed, but 2 robots discover their tiny allotment was once the holy seat of a global religion. Their role-playing, philosophical and cosplaying fun takes a turn for the real when they discover the only remaining multicellular life on the planet and must decide. Was the burning bush literal or metaphoric?
Yes! And for our readers at home, LARP in this case means live action roleplay.
Robot playing.
Sorry?
Live action robot playing, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, certainly in this case. In our world, yes. I'm just assuming that our readers at home are not like nerds, despite the fact that they're listening to an internet radio program about 2 dudes pretending to have read books, which... I take that back.
It's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
You're probably nerds.
Actually, no, this is great. If you don't know what LARP is, if we were the first ones to explain it to you, please let us know. You can find us at covermyasscast@gmail.com. That's an email address where you can find us. You can send an email there, or you can find us on Twitter at covermyasscast, not at gmail.com. No, that's it. At covermyasscast. Okay, so who's the fucking nerd now?
Okay, so the one thing I love most about this cover,
and there's a lot to love.
And there's a lot is the fact that like Mr. Clifford D. Simak is actually a Nebula Grand Master. If you look
is he? Where is it?
It says it right at the top. It says like he's a Nebula Grand Master.
We did another one.
He's not just a Nebula Award winner.
Now, what goes into being a Grand Master? Because I remember that
I've never heard
Anne McCaffrey was a Grand Master.
Grand Mistress, I suppose.
Oh, that'd be great. We should probably
talk about the cover. Yes, we have 2 robots and a bush. A flowering rose bush.
That's an awfully concise summary of the book.
So the bush, it obviously has roses on it, but to me the stem of the bush looks more like a ficus.
You mean the sort of gnarled...
Yeah, exactly. That looks more like...
It sort of looked like roots. I don't know.
Yeah,
the fici look like fici?
That's my first thoughts when I look at this. A barren desert plain, which is probably the Sinai Desert, because that's where the burning bush thing is supposed to have happened.
Oh, yes, that's right.
And we've got like the purple-robed robot and the brown-robed robot.
Yes, the synthetic persons, as they prefer to be known, who are the descendants of the internet subconscious. Mm-hmm. Does that ring a bell?
The internet subconscious?
You know, it's been a while. It was actually a little misspeaking that I did some 53 episodes ago.
That's
episode
a long time
7.
Ago. Oh, wow. That is a very long time ago.
When we did Tam, the Son of the Tiger.
Oh, was that so early on?
Yes.
Oh.
It's really
quite
quite
the other LARP book we did, wasn't it?
And I think it's kind of appropriate because this is our 60th episode, which is a hexaheptamersary, I believe.
Fantastic.
Hexadeca.
70 episodes ago.
Minus 7 episodes ago, we were talking about this.
Minus 7 episodes. Oh, very good. So yes, we have 2 synthetic persons clearly arguing over a bush.
Yes, and one of them is in purple vestments, the ecclesiastic purple of the papacy.
Yes.
And the other one, who their back is arched and they're looking up.
He's almost like he's curtsying, I would say.
Oh, I like that. See, I want to learn how to curtsy, how to do it properly, because it's such a lovely gesture. It's almost balletic.
It is.
A formal bow, like you either do it from the neck or the waist, and you do it at a certain angle, and there's an art to
apparently
that.
The angle is really important if you're Japanese. Yeah.
And various other cultures, in the same way that when you put your hands together, your palms together, it depends on how high your hands are, how much respect you're showing, and showing too much is almost like parodic. Yeah. So holding it at heart height, that is for an equal. Holding it lower is for like a subservient or a child or whatever. That's a benediction almost. And holding it up to your face is great respect, and holding it above you, that's like respecting divinity.
mean, I know that's very much a Thai thing, where how high you hold it, like
it's a gestural honorific.
Yeah, for someone you've not mentioned, it's like usually chin height, and I have no idea who you are, and I'm just like going to show you proper respect in the end.
And you do it back.
Of course, yeah.
But by the time that you're in a condition where you're raising your hands above your eyes, like that person cannot return it at the same level, because that's it. We can't both be God now, can we?
I've not thought of that.
Well, it's sort of like when you have you ever met like a celebrity that you really admire, a writer or an actor whom you consider like occupies a higher stratum of existence?
I've rubbed elbows with Terry Pratchett, literally. We were standing at it was at a Ren fair. It was at a Ren fair, and we were standing at a booth, and I was literally rubbing elbows with Sir Terry Pratchett.
Did you speak with him?
Barely. I went to his panel later in the day, and I had one of my books signed with him. But like at the time, wonderful. I figured I thought it would be more like polite to just acknowledge his presence and like
let him get on with his day.
Exactly, let him get on with his business.
I often wonder about that. Like, I recently learned about an author that we've discussed, Guy N. Smith, the author of Crabs: The Human Sacrifice. Yes. There is an annual convention of the Guy N. Smith fan club, which is held at his house.
Oh, cool.
He cooks
nice
for the 18 people who show up.
I might actually have to read one of his books and go there one day.
I mean, considering I've seen some of the other covers of his books, and they're amazing, and they're baffling, so I guess we should never read them, lest we deny ourselves.
I mean, we can only read the ones we've not reviewed.
One of his books is called The Sucking Pit.
Okay.
So that's got to go on the list one of these days.
I can imagine. As long as the cover is visually entertaining, then yes.
But so the cover of this week's book, we have two synthetic persons from the internet subconscious, and the one on the right, the one in the brown vestment, is Dr. Theophilos. Is what he named himself, because they were late to the party.
Yes.
After abandoned extinct Earth was discovered by the intergalactic
community. Barren wasteland completely wrecked by nuclear holocaust,
biological warfare and exodus.
There were some sites which hinted at generation ships having lifted off there, but
dissolved into the galactic community.
Currently there's nothing left on the planet.
Not a scratch.
But lots of relics. Like whole abandoned cities, which mostly intact,
which have drawn role players from across the galaxy to try and participate. Like the children of the son of the tiger, who discovered a bizarre little enclave somewhere in previously English colonial Africa that was already a LARPer's paradise for a while.
Which is kind of weird because, all the trees left there were fossilized, and it was kind of like more of a desert wasteland with some tree trunks which they kind of ran around screaming. That's
the thing with live action role playing in general. It's a theater of the imagination. Now the empire of the Robot Queen had it quite a lot easier, despite the fact that most of its citizens were themselves biological and only pretending to be synthetic persons.
The winter sports territory on Earth at this point is prime, of course, where most of the story takes place. It's like the European Alps.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yes, the ones who went to Sochi, they didn't have such a good time. But they built a lot of toilets facing each other for some reason. There's also the Guild of the Bewildered Time/Space Folks, who, much like the Brotherhood of Spocks, they think they could just drop into anybody's territory and wave a sensor around going, what year is this?
What peculiarities are going on here? This primitive planet.
A parallel world.
Basically any excuse to show off their own LARP equipment.
Which I don't know how people feel about that. I mean, probably some Star Trek LARPers are welcome at a Ren fair, or are they?
I know that the Klingons are always welcome at the furry cons because they generally host a great bar and
they
have
throw
a good
great
party,
parties, and they're good fun with everyone, and it's super inclusive.
So of course, the two main characters of this book, which are the synthetic persons again, Dr. Theophilus, and what was the other one called?
Theophilus.
Sorry. What was the other one called again?
Well, he was one who took his name from another one of the Earth LARP empires. That's Daryl McMatthews the 14th.
It's a good name for a pope.
Exactly. There's a number in there, so that's why he assigned himself.
Which brings me to an interesting question. Is the Pope Catholic?
Well, okay, so, I'm sure that there's what makes a Catholic really, then? I've never really... I mean, bear shit in wood, so the Pope must be a Catholic, right?
Well...
Oh, God, please don't let that ever be taken out of context.
So, no, the Pope is not Catholic.
What? Why not?
Okay, because the person who's generally referred to as the Pope, which is...
The Pontifex.
The Pontifex, which is the Archbishop of Rome, the last incarnation of St. Peter, whatever the thing is. Like,
wow. Okay, yeah.
Il Papa, it's not actually a title. The actual person who has the title of the Pope is the head of the Coptic Church. So no, the Pope is not Catholic.
Wait, okay, no, but...
He's got a immensely long title, which is like Archbishop of Rome, the Pontiff of this, Saint of that, holder of the relics. But Pope Il Papa is just a term of affection.
Yeah. This came up in my... I was going to say research, but I think it was probably the really extensive appendices to this book, where there were lists of various titles in various religions, and where I learned words like proto-priest. That's a thing.
Proto-priest.
Proto-priest and schema monk.
Schema monk.
Yeah, right?
I don't know what it is, but it would be one of the ex-ski bum LARPers who moved in from the territory to the north of the Roman Catholics, who are now forming the two guard bots, blue and yellow.
Ah, yes. I immediately saw where the author was going with this, because being ex-ski bums, like, they must have been from the Alps. And which Alps are the best? The Swiss ones.
Swiss Alps,
yeah. So we have our liveried Swiss guards in their really cool like nylon skiing outfits with the cool stripes, and
one of them's got a snowboard for a shield and a ski pole for a spear.
So brilliant. So of course they're welcome at the edges of the new papacy. But I can understand that Dr. Theophilus and Darrell McMatthews XIV are quite protective of their tiny little enclave on a very busily LARPing Earth, because being the only synthetic persons on Earth, they approach LARP from a slightly different perspective. Like, it's not just purely imagination from them. They have the ability, like synthetic persons do, to sort of reprogram themselves, kind of, using personality pods, like little USB sticks, essentially, that they can plug into themselves after programming it. Like, that does lead to some really interesting, like, philosophical discussions, because so biological persons are, like, we imagine that we have a soul. We imagine that we have an ineffable essence that is us, and the discussion between nature and nurture and what is transcendental. And we have that advantage. We can have those discussions because we are black box to ourselves. We are black boxes within which...
I suppose so, yeah. We can't examine our own wetware, as I think that they would call it in
or each other's.
I mean, we're trying, but we're not making many inroads.
Whereas synthetic persons, they have printouts of their core code. They can, therefore, rewrite themselves. They can decide what their personality and their motivation is going to be.
There's actually a thing in Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?
By Philip K. Dick, which is based the Blade Runner franchise.
Yes, which they're like talking about like dialing in your emotional state of being at the beginning of...
What's it called? The mood organ.
Something like that. And like they have an argument at the beginning of, like, what were you planning to dial? Well, according to my calendar, I'm dialing like chirpy and uppy, but I don't feel like it, so I'm going to like do mopey. And like, well, if you're going to do mopey, I'm going to dial passive aggressive.
Yeah. And you know what? I don't even feel like dialing anything. Well, why don't you dial the setting 10? Setting 10 is feeling like dialing on the mood organ. No, I'm not going to do that. No, I'm going to do... You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do suicidal ennui, and I'm going to set a timer for an hour, and then there's going to be, like, regret and self-reproach. It's so weird that never made it into the film version.
No, I mean, the film has almost no relationship to the book.
But this is something that the synthetic people, so Dr. Theophilus and Darrell McMatthews XIV, do routinely, where they program new sort of personality components for themselves and plug them in and just see what I'm like when I'm one of these people. Like, especially now that they have all of these titles that they can explore, like the proto-priest and the bishop, and Dr. Theophilus, the one in the brown, he gets like way too excited because he's not as interested in like higher titles.
He likes to do the research and get the history and find all the interesting things that have been going on. You know, it's a small city-state. They only have a tiny little RP allotment with a density of 2 popes per square kilometer.
Yeah, well, one of those popes quickly gives up his rival.
There's only 1 pope, but it's only half a square kilometer in surface area. So there's like the density is 2 popes per square kilometer.
That's right. But Dr. Theophilus quickly realized that there is much more to Earth's various religions and philosophies than just these Roman Catholic strictures. So he quickly styles himself as, I really enjoyed reading about this on the appendices, that's the one, of the Dob-Dob.
The Dob-Dob.
Dob-Dob.
I must have not read that footnote.
Well, it was rather an obscure one, and I know that Dr. Theophilus was very proud to have discovered it. So this is a fraternity of Buddhist monks. Mm-hmm. They exist within monasteries where there are sort of subgroupings of monks who share certain values and share certain resources with each other.
Oh, okay. I had no idea monasteries were that competitive.
They concern themselves with sometimes sports. Yeah. Right, with sometimes the more physical ones, but also like doing more physical labor, like cooking or caring for the elderly.
That has to happen, yeah.
So I liked that Dr. Theophilus was drawn to these more earthly pursuits than Darrell McMatthews the 14th,
who was definitely more into the
He kept looking for just what is the higher title. I'm Pontifex now. What's above the Pontifex?
He wanted the rituals and he wanted the masses, which just kept going forever and ever, and of course in Latin, and especially in the discovery of the ATM in the Vatican with Latin interface was like an absolute delight. No, this is true. There's an ATM in the Vatican, and the default language of it is in Latin.
Oh my goodness, clerical ecclesiastic Latin. Gosh, that's got to be confusing.
So, Dr.
Theophilos.
They have the Bible, of course. They have a million Bibles. I don't know
they
how
have
many.
Tons of Bibles.
Yeah. And he decides to tread in the footsteps of the Bible as far as he can.
Oh, yeah.
Which he has to do some incursions to the World War II reenactment ranchers in North Africa. He gets special permission to go and check those out. And there's the ancient Egyptians, which they kind of dig that, him showing up.
Oh, especially
they find are you one of those Jewish guys? No, but we're the guys who came after them, and that was
close enough.
Yeah, exactly. And they're cool with that. They're even willing to chase them with their chariots and everything.
And spray some synthetic lamb's blood on them.
There you go. It's all in good
fun. It's a bit of a mix-up, but yeah.
No, they're LARPers as long as it's fun.
And they know all the songs from Andrew Lloyd Webber's biblical reenactments.
There we go, yes.
7 years of bumper crops are on their way.
What's that from?
Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Oh, I don't know.
Years of plenty, tons of wheat and loads of hay. Your farms will boom. There won't be room to store the surplus grain you grow.
I thought you were talking
After
about that.
The future doesn't look too bright. Egypt's fate will change completely overnight. Oh, sorry. Going to lose control again.
Yes, you did. I'm going to check you for raccoons later.
My mother, bless her, who is back in her homeland of Northern Ireland, she played in Joseph's Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat as a child. So we know all the songs.
But when he's retracing Moses' steps, he actually finds something quite unique on the planet at this point. A bush.
An actual example of multicellular life.
It's growing.
Which was not supposed to be there. They have their equivalent of the Prime Directive. You can only have a LARP planet if it's completely extinct and it just happens to have a certain amount of oxygen that you can all deal with. And,
especially robots don't care about even that.
Synthetic persons, pardon me.
Sorry, synthetic persons. I apologize. So, tracing the steps of Moses.
The prophet of...
So they find the bush, and it basically disqualifies the entire planet for
LARPing. It's not a party planet anymore.
There's native life. Well, presumed native, but that's an entirely different theological discussion.
He immediately summons his buddy Darrell McMatthews the 14th to sort of examine this.
Yes, who immediately gets identified as the burning yet flourishing bush from biblical stories.
Now, of course, Pope Darrell McMatthews the 14th has studied the Christian liturgy a lot better than Dr. Theophilos, who just samples from everything that's available to program one of his personality cults with. At this point, he's moved on from being a Dob-Dob to being a Schulklopfer. Do you know what a beadle is?
A beadle?
Yeah, it's sort of a cleric who bothers people to go to church.
Oh, okay. No.
And a Schulklopfer would stimulate local people of the Jewish community to go to synagogue. There's associations with numerology. In Neustadt in Germany, it would be knock, pause, knock, knock, pause, knock, because that's how they read the numerology of whatever phrase he was supposed to...
Right. So,
and that was the Schulklopfer who
would go
from...
So it wouldn't be like...
I think that Dr. Theophilus has adopted that particular one because he didn't read far enough. It's a good thing that he didn't discover this bush during his gymnosophist phase.
Yeah.
which is something that that's a description of the Greeks who met certain religious folks from probably like Hindu or Buddhist backgrounds who thought that like clothes and food were violations of their purity.
Oh, the bush is discovered. It is either real or it's not.
Yes.
And we have to determine this. And they look into some scriptures, and unfortunately they come into some Rastafarian text, which of course claims that the burning bush was cannabis.
Yeah.
Which leads them to the inevitable conclusions, like we have this bush here. It's either holy or not. Question is, will it burn?
Yeah. And they realized the only way to do it is to perform the experiment with scientific acumen and with great relish.
Looking at the cover, the way he's plucking at that bush, he is clearly going to roll himself a big fat joint.
Yes, he is.
He's just like he's harvesting it like it's a tea bush.
For a sacred duber.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
I mean, so the burning, that was another argument, like, is the burning bush actually about VD? I mean, this is also a very important theological...
No, it's not. No, it isn't. No, because it's already been established that crabs and other bottom feeders are haram, or whatever in Judaism, like the antithesis of kosher is.
When Pope Darrell decides
Pope Darrell McMatthews the 14th.
Pope Darrell McMatthews the 14th actually invokes the temporal powers of the Holy See to check out the reference to, is this actually a historical bush?
Now, what exactly are the temporal powers of the Holy See? Like, is there a literary precedent to that? Or was that bestowed upon them by the Guild of Bewildered Time/Space folks?
Probably the latter. Temporal power actually means the secular power, but temporal also means time travel.
I just don't know that. I'm not
sorry about that.
I'm not clever. It's okay. So there's all these great jokes in Project Pope by Clifford D. Simak that
so far off your head I didn't even see the contrail.
Wow, yeah, exactly. Because I'm not as ecumenical and as wise as him. And gosh,
that would be an ecumenical matter.
I do hope that Clifford D. Seaback doesn't turn out to be a huge anti-Semite.
Let's hope not.
If we Google that, and then maybe this becomes one of the lost episodes. Let's hope not.
Well, the trick to avoid that is to publish it before we do any serious Google.
I think that's worked for us so far, and. There's no discreet way to get rid of paper that doesn't sound like getting rid of paper. This isn't an ASMR podcast.
Sorry.
The debate between Dr. Theophilus and Pope Darrell McMatthews XIV attracts so much attention from the children of the Son of the Tiger and the Empire of the Robot Queen. They gather around and they join in on this debate to the point where they realize that this is probably the most important asset on Earth, and it's given all of these otherwise separate LARP communities a reason to coalesce and to talk to each other and to like roleplay with each other in a way that they haven't ever done before. Like the synthetic persons have never interacted with...
Yeah, it turns into a big non-denominational LARP event, basically.
Where they realize that all of them are syncretic persons.
Oh, it's incredible. Which is how I would describe this book.
It's definitely, yes, it is incredible. Wow. So how are we going to rate this book?
Oh, dear.
I mean, we probably ought to.
How many candles on a menorah?
7. Is it 7? It's not 9, is it?
It's a week-long event and like 1 candle a night.
Yes, that's right.
Although originally it was lamp oil, I believe, because that's the whole miracle. So like there was not enough oil. And,
that's right. And then it continued to burn anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll give it a solid 5 out of 7.
Nice. I like that. Yeah, I wonder what's the... Okay, so what's the... so 7 is associated with what else? So there's an ecclesiastic symbolism there. 7 is also quite a little bit pagan. Oh, 5 is certainly pagan. Yeah, the pentacle.
They're both prime.
I do like prime numbers. I like square numbers too.
Yeah.
What's 60?
Neither.
No, it's neither. But does it combine? Hey, can we combine 60 out of a prime? What are numbers called that combine out of a prime and a square? Let us know on CoverMyAssCast at Twitter.com. That's not how Twitter email address is.
25 is a prime squared.
In maths, there's so many names for this. Happy primes. What's a happy prime? Is one of those special prime numbers.
Right, and so there's Messina primes, and there's...
What are the numbers called that are the sum of a prime and a square number?
Sum of a prime...
Go to Twitter, at CoverMyAssCast, just randomly. I don't care if it's 2023 by the time that you listen to this. Just let us know. We'll probably still be interested.
If there's some math student in the future who's figured out this theorem, then please use the temporal power of the Holy See to inform us of this.
Someone who is a worse nerd than either Clifford D. Simak or fucking us for coming up with all this nonsense. So, hey, what do we have in store for our readers next week?
Right. Next week's book is by Dave Barry. It's called Live Right and Find Happiness, although beer is much faster.
Comes in. Thank you for joining us at Cover My Ass, where baffling books are reviewed but not read by yours truly. My name is Kaki.
And I'm Kay, and remember,
we only judge a book by its cover. We even did it together again. I remember it finally.
Got it right.
I wonder how the raccoons are doing, though. I mean, you're great and everything.
I'm check out their paycheck. It was a little higher again this time.
But still happening. God, you're such a chump. No, that was an unkind thing to say. I just think like giving your PayPal address to raccoons is always a bad idea.
I know, but it's like it
I've been telling you that for years.